We have some huge NHL signings to discuss today, including 3 from the Boston Bruins. Plus, we also have a big signing in Vegas and Arizona. We'll discuss all the details coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As you can see, I'm once again on the road away from my regular recording location here at home. I'm actually now in Niagara Falls, Ontario. What you can see behind me here is a bit of the downtown Niagara area. If you hear anything in the background, which I think it's done now, but there was fireworks going off here over the falls just a few moments ago. So if you do hear anything, that would be what that is. But otherwise, long day here, but we have some important news I want to discuss here before I wrap it up and call it a night. So like I said, 3 big signings in the Boston organization, including the long rumored returns of Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci. Both signed very team-friendly deals, of course, full of bonus opportunities, so they can certainly earn a lot more extra cash. So in the case of Patrice Bergeron, he gets a 1-year deal of $2.5 million. Of course, that's a big step down from what he was making before. But with the extra bonuses that are included, he can earn an extra $2.5 million as well. Now, of course, depending on the Bruins cap situation, any bonuses can either be tacked onto this year if there's space at the end of the year. If not, it'll count as an overage towards next year's cap. So it kind of looks like they're kind of making one last run here with this group. At least that's the feeling I get. We'll have to see if that's actually the case or not. And now we don't know the full details of all the bonuses, but I believe most of them usually for 35 plus players. So the age 35 and up, usually they're tied to games played, whether the team makes the playoffs, how many rounds they win. Sometimes they're statistical, but typically it's around that. So it should be very attainable for Bergeron to likely make upwards of $5 million next year, which is, I think, pretty good, considering how, as recently as even last year, he was still one of the top two-way players in the game. So obviously that's a pretty good deal. And David Krejci is officially returning. I know I'm not sure if the Bruins have announced it yet as I record this, but I know Kevin Weeks broke the news earlier that he was returning on a 1-year, $1 million deal. Of course, $1 million is a salary, but he could also earn an extra $2 million in bonuses, just like Bergeron. Of course, they're both over the age of 35, so they're able to do this on a 1-year contract. So it works well for the Bruins cap. They get Krejci and Bergeron for $3.5 million to play their top 6 centers. You can't beat that. That's a pretty darn good deal if you ask me. They also signed RFA forward Pavel Zacha today. Of course, they had acquired him from New Jersey earlier this offseason. He avoids salary arbitration, which was going to be coming here shortly. He gets a 1-year deal of $3.5 million. So he's making the same money as Krejci and Bergeron combined. But like I said, of course, they can both earn, and between the two of them, an extra $4.5 million in bonuses, depending on how they do this year, how many games they play, and how the Bruins do. Like I said, we don't have all the fine little details of what each, will trigger each bonus. So there's a lot in there for them. So, of course, that puts the Bruins over the cap now that all 3 of these players are signed. Of course, during the NHL offseason, you can be over the cap by 10%. So that's not a problem right now. Puts them over the cap by $2.2 million, but it also gives them, according to Cap Friendly's website, at least with that being over, 14 forwards and 8 defensemen on the roster. So they'd have to drop at least one because they'd have 24 players on the roster. You can only have max 23. So you're going to have to demote somebody. And in their case, you're likely going to demote 1 forward, 1 defenseman, and you're going to be pretty darn close. Depending on who those players are, they may have to either demote a 3rd player or maybe trade out one. Just kind of depends. I think they'd love to move on from Nick Foligno. That contract has not worked out here as of yet. There was some speculation earlier in the offseason that they were looking for potentially trading him, even if they had to retain some money. But nothing's happened here as of yet. We'll see where that goes. That might be an option for them. They don't have any more options really for Foligno. I don't think a buyout's really reasonable. Now that Zacha is signed, though, they will get one more buyout window, which will open in 3 days from now for them. So they could consider a buyout. I don't necessarily expect that to be the case, though, here for Don Sweeney and Cam Neely to buy out a player. I mean, they could do it, but don't think that's the route they're going. So the Bruins here, like I said before, it sounds like they're getting the band back together, so to speak, for one last run. I know a few days ago we talked about it. It wasn't really so much a rumor as I guess some speculation about could they even bring back Milan Lucic from Calgary. I'm not sure Calgary wants to move him, but if they wanted to make a sweetener type of deal, maybe. I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. Certainly be interesting. But, of course, the other thing with the Boston Bruins here to keep in mind as well, even though they are over the cap, the other thing about this is that they don't have to rush because they're going to have Charlie McAvoy and Brad Marchand both out to start the season. They both had major surgeries this year, although lots of footage emerged online at the Tuukka Rask wedding celebration that took place in Italy not long ago. Both looked to be feeling pretty good during those celebrations and videos that were online. So, I mean, doesn't mean they can play hockey at a high level right now because of that. Of course, McAvoy with the shoulder and Marchand with the hip stuff, but they will be deep into LTIR possibly to start the year, and then as they're ready to come back, they can make roster decisions then. So there's certainly lots of flexibility in Boston on what they do. They're definitely going to demote a player. They have to, because they right now, like I said, on the cap friendly website, they have them on 24 players, and that's just one too many. So we'll see what they decide to do. The other big signings today, the one in Vegas, I think it was a really good deal. Vegas locks up Nicolas. He gets a 5-year contract, $3 million per season. He's been a really, really good number 3 center. Got good size, like 6'4", 220, something like that. Real good on the PK, good on faceoffs. Put up 15 goals last year and has become a real key contributor in the bottom 6. So to get him for $3 million for the next 5 years, I think he's about 25 years of age. That's a really good contract. I like that for Vegas. Now, they still have not signed Nicolas Hague. He's still the remaining restricted free agent here, so they still have that business to take care of. Of course, Nicolas Waugh could have had salary arbitration as well, but that's avoided now that this deal's in place. And, 39 points for a third liner is not too shabby, in my opinion, and I think he's well worth that money. Of course, they do have the Shea Weber contract that they picked up from Montreal earlier this offseason for Evgeny Dadonov, so they do have that $7.8 million that they can go into LTIR above the cap. Right now, they're over by $5.7 million, and of course, like I said, Hague is unsigned, so depending on what they get him for, they may have to make at least one subsequent roster move. I'm going to suspect Hague gets at least down $2-3 million. Like, he's probably, it's depending if they can get him right around that 2.1. I don't know if that's reasonable. He might be able to get more than that. If he does, then they're going to have to make another move. It's just that simple. We'll have to wait and see where things go on that front. But they're certainly, like Boston, have some LTIR flexibility there. And the Coyotes lock up Lawson Crouse, 25 years old, buys up a few UFA years as well as there's remaining RFA years. Crouse gets a 5-year deal at $4.3 million. Yet another player who avoids the dreaded salary arbitration hearing and comes to terms with the Coyotes. Of course, there was a lot of talk and speculation that he could be moved earlier between the offseason or even at the deadline. There was lots of interest, but they decided to hang on to him. And, of course, they do have to have a few players that are, committed to sticking around and being the veteran guys on this team as they go into the ASU arena. And they really, have obviously, brought that roster down to be a little bit cheaper and younger. And they need somebody there who has some experience. They obviously still have Clayton Keller, Crouse, etc. So, $4.3 million. He scored 20 goals last year, put up 34 points. It might be a little bit longer term in money than I was expecting, but he has the potential to be a consistent 20-25 goal guy. So for 5 years at $4 million, that's really not bad if he plays and consistently stays at that level. If he doesn't, well, maybe it won't work out so good. But to me, it's not bad. There's a little bit of risk involved, but most of these deals do have that to some degree. So let me know your thoughts on these pretty significant, huge NHL signings, especially in the case of the Boston Bruins. But the Waugh and Crouse signing are pretty significant too for their respective teams. It's been a busy day, lots of contracts signed, and that'll be all for today. We'll be back tomorrow whenever there's more news to discuss here on the channel, so stay tuned for that. And of course, like I said, I'll be in Niagara Falls here all week, so expect some different videos, some different scenery in the background here as I go through this leg of vacation. So let me know your thoughts in the comments on these contracts. We'll talk about it further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.